that's why it's funny, because somebody will assume that
he seems to think, which is funny, is that they're not extreme enough ideologically, and that is why individuals who are also not being extreme enough ideologically are undermining TPSA from inside. So I see like the angle that he went.
No, he didn't say they're not extreme enough. He thinks those people.
I'm saying it's not extreme enough, but like as far as like,
no, I think they're not smart enough. Not extreme. We're not extreme. They're not smart enough and not strategic enough to properly do what needs to be done.
They haven't been very confident, at least in the public sphere. Go ahead, Casey. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. It's just that voice. So yeah, and so for a moment I thought, there was some clarity there, and it just cracks me up because, people I'm sure are assuming that, oh, the woke girl. I'm not trying to bring the country back to what it was. But are you kidding? I'm a Christian. I'm probably a Christian fascist for crying out loud, but I just don't say it as much. But here's the point. I don't care what anybody's ideology is. I was vehemently against Charlie Kirk when it came to Gaza. And I still can put that aside and say, wait a second. Why wasn't the AED machine around him? Why didn't they call 911? And the fact that all of this, people are trying to say is normal. And that if you have an educated assessment, that you're wrong for having that assessment, for seeing that. I don't care. You know what? Here's even the better part. Even if it wasn't Charlie Kirk and it was somebody else, anybody else, I would be like, whoa, that went wrong. Why? Why were trained people, how did trained people make all these mistakes in sync? Because it's like, that's too much of a coincidence. It's not a coincidence. I'm sorry. And this is something I stand on.
I will give you this too. I want to read something to you, is that the limited explanations that they've given, like, somebody stole a hat off the table is why we took all of the SD cards. There's things like that that just don't add up, because when they said that they grabbed the SD cards to keep them out of people's hands, well, the very same people who took the SD cards were also live streaming the event back to the Arizona studio, and this Tyler Boyer said this publicly. So, why would you take SD cards if you're live streaming the event? The only reason why that you would take the SD cards is if you were trying to contain the evidence, right? So that way you have custody of all of the copies of that evidence, as opposed to having it in a few different people's hands, like local PD or FBI, who might have come to the scene and extracted it, because they had a copy back at the studio, according to Tyler Boyer. This is on the timeline. So there are things that they've like the way they've responded. Tyler Boyer probably being the worst offender on the timeline, responding to me and responding to others, showing inconsistencies with their stated narrative. So I just want to throw that out there. Go ahead, that girl. You can finish.
Yeah, and I'll wrap it up. And this one right here is the one that I sit on the most, because of the fact that I had the medical expertise to say that it was done wrong. This is not a Candace Owens thing when people think it's not about influencers or whatever.
Yeah, let me just say this too. My scrutiny became before I started even listening to Candace Owens at all. I didn't listen to her at all when I was scrutiny of this.
I can confirm that Diligent is being 100% honest.
We know we were here. But yet, Diligent, me too. As a matter of fact, I used to drag her in some of my videos. Like, what is this bill talking about? The only time I softened up was with the text messages. I was like, all right, let me fall back a little bit. Let me just fall back a little bit.
Right? I'm just kind of like highlighting that she's not responsible for all of the skepticism. People were skeptical before she started to weigh in massively.
Can I ask you a question for clarification?
Ask for a question.
You.
What do you want?
Yes, you referred to your medical expertise, and that's why you're able to give a professional assessment as to the fact that they responded improperly. Could you please clarify what is your medical expertise?
Yeah, I'm a registered nurse. I'm not an LPN or a CNA.
Oh, okay. So we have like a minor understanding of the medical industry. I don't think that gives you the authority to say definitively that they didn't do it properly.
Nurse is a minor understanding.
I mean, my father ran Beth Israel's emergency center for 20 years, and I'm friends with a lot of people in the medical.
Okay, well, we've ascertained that she's at least registered, right? So that means she has some kind of certifications. That's fine. Let her finish.
Like a paramedic is also registered.
Answer your question.
Yeah, and so that's the thing. And by the way, Diligent, we as nurses do respect paramedics extremely, because
I respect nurses and paramedics too, but I'm trust them over
Casey,
the FBI.
finish, Casey, go ahead.
Yeah, like it's I'm getting a headache. You know what I mean? So yeah. So anyway, you're not gonna trust him before the FBI. But then you don't see. This is what it is. The thing is that when you have the medical expertise.
That's a glitch, right?
That is Hashem silencing the lying Afrocentric obese woman. Baruch Hashem.
Go ahead, Casey.
I don't know what that glitch was. I don't care what names he calls me. I've had Jews call me terrible names for the past 2 years.
Come on, okay, you're derailing the space now, Lewis. I want to continue to get to the rest of the hands because I'm wrapping it up in 20 minutes. Go ahead, Casey.
Yeah, I'm trying to move on. I'm a psych nurse for crying out loud. Like, are you kidding? Like, this one of my actually, like, really? You haven't even. Anyway. So yeah, so that's the point. And so now, like,
I'm glad the psych nurse understands the true nature of trauma medicine.
The medical community, when I put out my
dropped it down for a minute.
oh, sorry, I didn't mean to yell in y'all ears like that, but I had to get black with it. So, this is the last thing I said. That point is not touched on enough because it is the most basic. Sometimes you have to simplify this thing. Nobody can answer these kind of questions. They can't answer that. They say, oh, well, he was dead anyway. Like, get the fuck. So that's what I mean. I don't have to go too far to know that is minutes later, like from the time Saturday he was shot till he got to the SUV, they tossed him in. He couldn't even fit in, for what I heard. It was done wrong. Okay, it was done wrong. And then of course thereafter with the evidence and everything else. But for me as a nurse, that's what I'm looking at. And I don't need anybody. I don't need anybody to tell me I'm right or wrong about it. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you. Let's go to Steele. Go ahead, Steele. Steele. Eco Haven. Go ahead, Eco Haven. Jeez. Okay, Thomas, go ahead.
Hello? Can you guys hear me? Hey, thanks for the mic, Diligent. I've been listening to this great space as always. Noxie, great co-hosting as always. And I see a lot of mutual falls and stuff. Thank you guys. But hey, this entire thing. I know that Lewis made a comment just now. You trust the FBI more than a registered nurse. It's wild to trust the FBI
more than a registered psych nurse. And bear in mind, the FBI swatted me the day before Thanksgiving.
You did address him, but Lewis, please, that's why I dropped you down.
But I
interrupting.
I just want to clarify. I don't trust the FBI for shit, and I trust them more than this obese negress.
Oh, dude, that's the last time, dude. Stop doing the personal attacks.
It's all right. Demons always come.
I don't allow anybody else to do it. I'm not allowing him to do it. Go ahead.
Thank you. I came up literally to troll Lewis, so if he's off the stage, I'm great.
Let's do a space. You control me. I'll hold the space. You control me as much as you like. Baruch Hashem. Yes, you cannot silence me.
Thank you. I can, though. I'm going to drop you both down, and you guys can go have a space together. I think it'd be interesting to listen to. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, you've brought up a lot of really interesting things tonight that I had never heard, especially that doc. There's just so many things to consider with regards to all this. Also, in the beginning of the trial today, when they were talking about what constitutes and is the definition of a witness, it's crazy that we have to define what English terms mean, like witness, and which witnesses can be, allowed into the trial. So it's, to me, this whole thing is like a controlled theatrical performance of information release, content creation, especially. They want to control which content comes in and out, what video is captured, what audio is captured. So the whole thing looks to me like a cover-up. And poor Charlie Kirk, everybody's so, concerned about Candace Owens. I'm still, are there not people still grieving that Charlie Kirk has been assassinated and the true assassin or the justice for getting Tyler Robinson justice or executing him if he is indeed this, horrible demon? To me, the whole thing is, it's like the O.J. Simpson trial in a way, where we're going to be strung along. And even your Grok query earlier said that this was going to go to 2027. So dig in deep, because this could go for years. And this is the way the legal industrial complex works. As you heard today, everything is scheduling and dates. And hey, I will agree to that date, but I want you to know if we don't have the information necessary, we want to push it back. So this whole thing, is big media, big content. Tim Pool, Candace Owens, everybody, including yourself, is going to essentially get mind virus and psyoped and brought into this entire orchestrated media that's going to be created out of all this. But poor Charlie Kirk, is he gonna get true justice?
I hope so. But we can't. Only time will tell. And we all witnessed a very traumatic event. Even my kid, who isn't, on social media a whole lot, and other people's kids that I know said that they kept getting sent or being pushed the video of him getting shot, like the very graphic one. And that has a traumatic effect on anybody. And so when it comes to, you said, PSYOP or it's all a big distraction or whatever, I can't think of, what I mean? Like, I feel like a distraction is when you are wasting time paying attention to something that you shouldn't be paying attention to. And I would have to disagree on whether or not this is one of those things. I think that this is this is probably the thing that they try to distract you from. That's why they're fighting so hard to control the narrative and disparage those of us who are seeking the truth. I am going to wrap it up. Grok, I want you to recap the space and then take us out. And of course you didn't hear me. Noxie, or AB, go ahead. And then I'm going to go to Noxie for a last word.
Yeah, two quick points, just I guess, following up on the gentleman who just spoke. I would urge everyone, including myself, but sincerely, from the bottom of my heart, it's okay to have a view going in. I have one, Diligent has one, others have one, but try to, if this is an issue that you care about, or a case that you care about, or a controversy, whatever, try to have an open mind and be willing to change your mind. But again, both directions, every direction, based on what unfolds, right? If the truth is what you seek, then seek the truth, and be like, it's more important for the truth to emerge than for me or you or any individual person to be right. So, in terms of like what you were just talking about, it's the team themselves who are very experienced. I urge everyone to verify, as Diligent always says, don't take my word for it, to verify what is said about the experience, the extensive experience that his defense lawyers have, including murder trials in multiple jurisdictions, including getting people acquitted on murder trials. So if you care about the guy receiving a fair trial, even though I think he's guilty, think he's guilty, then you want to have an amazing defense team. And it seems to me on the surface, I'll keep on looking, that is the case. And they're the ones who requested, even though I do want I think most of us here probably do want an open trial with, accessible to the media. It's the defense team, because they want to prevent the things that Diligent was worried about tainting the potential jury pool, among other reasons. They're the ones who want to some extent, restrict media access for that reason. And a lot of defense, again, that's a common defense tactic, if in a high-profile case, so that their client doesn't get demonized and they can, kind of keep it just to the judge and jury. And keep the outside noise as much as possible to a minimum. But one last thing that I wanted to disagree with you on, Diligent, is that you said that TPUS, no one else is responsible. TPUSA is responsible for the questions that are being asked. I strongly disagree, or at least I'll say they're very low down on the list. Okay, no, it's the people that are attacking TPUSA. And I'm not talking about for anything specifically regards to implying or stating, again, not you, but I'm saying others, Candace and company, implying or stating that everyone from his wife to his entire team, which includes close personal friends of his, are complicit in either the murder or the cover-up. It's those people who are responsible for the questions, much more than the people who
may be admit that I've implied that his team seems to be covering something up. I'll say that, but not
right. So
I didn't say they murdered him or anything like that, and I definitely didn't say that about Erica Kirk.
Right. But fine.
Neither has Candace.
But that was as a result of the interactions I've had with TPUSA directly, right? Like they came at me, or at least Tyler Boyer came at me in an ugly manner. So I mean, I just reciprocate.
Yeah, listen, people are touchy about being accused of murder and complicity in the Friends cover.
I didn't do that. I didn't do that.
No, I'm not saying you. I'm not saying you did it, but when people get gun shy, right? So when you're gun shy from being, listen, if they did, then fuck them, right? Obviously, but if someone, even if they're innocent, then of course that's a totally understandable innocent of what they're being accused of, or implied that they're accused of by the high
treating
profile.
questions as an attack when they are not is how it started, and it escalated from there. It did. That was completely avoidable. Right.
Yeah, so again, but putting you aside, the just asking questions.
Just me. People are asking, literally just asking questions. Let me just say this: it's okay to ask questions. Like the fact that this just asking question things is turned into some kind of trope to disparage people.
It is a trope.
Fucking retarded, dude.
No, it's retarded when people say.
So don't question COVID, don't question elections, don't question authority whatsoever, never question anything.
No, be willing to question
that you're fucking told like a good little bitch slave.
That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. You should be willing to, a person should be willing to potentially question everything. But what's dishonest on the flip side, so it is a trope, and it's a trope for a reason. What's dishonest is people use, and I'm not talking about you, but a lot of people, on a lot of different topics from a lot of different angles and different political parties and different ideological persuasions, use the just asking questions thing to something for which there is an objective answer often, or they'll use it as a tactic to imply something without getting and having some plausible deniability that they didn't imply it. It's a dishonest tactic used. That's why it's become a trope.
Sometimes we're genuinely just asking questions.
For sure.
And to use that shuts down the people who are genuinely just asking questions.
But it's become a cliche for a reason.
No, it's not. It's become a cliche for a reason that they are able to hide behind it and use it as a way to shut down questions that they don't want to answer. There is no reason, and I will use Charlie's words himself. You better keep asking questions because it is the only thing that keeps us free. Without these questions, we are doing nothing but eating up the fed slop that we are being fed. We are supposed to ask questions. We are supposed to question our government. It is our duty to hold them accountable. There is no way that asking questions should ever be used to censor or silence people that are asking questions of their government or of the people that are supposed to be keeping us safe and are supposed to be protecting us. It's our right and it's our duty.
But it's a two-way street. The people who mock that tactic. Hold on. It's a two-way street. The people who, which I am, to be clear, I am.
He's being respectful of you. He's not calling you a wine mom. So go ahead.
Right. Now, the people who do use that tactic and that specific phraseology when they're not sincerely asking questions, it is totally legitimate to shit on them and to mock them and to point out that they're, again, not you, but the people who do act like that, are not asking honest questions. They're trying to cast doubt upon something of which there is not doubt. They're trying to cast aspersions or suspicion in an area the way they shouldn't be.
Don't you think it's fair about a public execution that, when Charlie has a lot of followers across the spectrum, that, you shouldn't just immediately respond with like vitriol to questions that are benign in nature or very objective in nature?
I think any of us, I know for me, like I said, I've been falsely accused of something. I got off, not even acquitted.
Like a question.
I'm just saying, anyone who's been
in nature. I'm not.
But I've never been accused. I've never been accused of murder.
What you're talking about, accusations.
So I'm saying, if you're not guilty, so I can see. I totally. That's the thing I'm most sympathetic to. Where they're coming from. If they're not guilty of what is being insinuated, which I don't think they are, but if they're not, you don't have to agree with me. If someone is not guilty of, and they're being accused of the most serious evil possible,
I'm not saying accusations.
Then no shit, they're gonna go ballistic when anyone implies that they are. Especially if they're close to that person.
Implies is subjective. You can say that any questioning is implied as an accusation, and therefore shield yourself
from answering anything.
But you wouldn't
exactly
disagree.
what has occurred. It's exactly what has occurred.
You wouldn't disagree that Candace, the most prominent one, is heavily implying that. Not you, but she is heavily implying it.
Well, I have to say, and I don't know because I wasn't paying attention at the very beginning, but the arc that I observed.
No, she's basically stating it. Yeah.
The arc that I observed was that she was actually, it seemed like she was giving TPUSA a lot of benefit of the doubt because even when I've side-eyed her a little bit when she came out with the video from one of the employees she said that she had been FaceTimed the video from behind Charlie, meaning that she was talking to somebody who had access to that video on the SD card, right? I side-eyed her like a motherfucker when she said that because she kind of corroborated the trajectory of the gunshot by saying there was no exit wound in the back, right? And then disclosing like the blood flow, which we don't know because she didn't share that information. But I was like, okay, so she's actively talking to these people that, are around Charlie and who are refusing to answer questions. For some reason, they're talking to her. So like, I was immediately suspicious of her when that happened because I had been paying attention really closely after she gave us the text messages. And then when she said that, I'm like, whoa, wait a second. Why is she like using access to control the narrative here? I immediately side-eyed her. So like, I have to disagree. Like at first it seemed like she was not very scrutinous of TPUSA. It was only after they started to give vitriol, not only to her, but also to individuals like myself, or making generalized statements about conspiracy theorists, which is kind of like when Andrew Colvett, I had the first SD card video that went viral, right? Like it was me. It was millions and millions of views. He responded the next day on their show, and he had this pompous attitude of, you'd have to watch the clip, but the way that he said it was with such disgust and disdain at the very question of why did he remove the SD card, right? Where he could have approached it with some kind of like objective. It doesn't even have to be compassion.
Why not?
Just answer the question without looking like a fucking conceited asshole. But when you act like you are above reproach and that people are below you for asking or wondering why these things that are glaringly anomalous happened, well then you start to draw the ire and more scrutiny through that action, right? Like now you are acting like somebody who, I don't know, it lacks like the humility of honesty. That's what it lacked. And I just, again, I feel like they could have handled it all a lot better, and it probably wouldn't have drew as much backlash and scrutiny as it did. As a matter of fact, I specifically remember telling Tyler Boyer in a reply battle I was having with him that he was creating a Streisand effect through his attitude and treatment of people asking questions. And that is exactly what has occurred.
But that's a different point. Whether somebody accidentally...
Instead of taking responsibility for it, right, I would say that the ultimate culmination of that Streisand effect is Candace Owens, right? And instead of addressing their behavior in the first weeks after his death and how they treated people asking questions objectively and compassionately, they have decided to create a straw man scapegoat, and it's not going to hold up underwater. It might be working for them in this little PR tour they're doing on all of the MSM, right? Like it's no accident that they're doing appearances on Fox News, CBS, these same institutions that lied to us during COVID, these same institutions that lied to us during the elections, right? That they're appealing to that crowd to try to push their messaging. You know why? Because when they're on Fox News and CBS, they're not getting pushback. That's why. It is a PR puff piece, and I'm telling you, it's not going to hold up underwater. Let's go to Dr. Grant. Go ahead.
Yeah, but maybe it is a PR puff piece, but why? Of course they're going to do that. Everyone in the same situation would do that. Nobody wants to be accused of murdering your friend or boss.
You would do that when you don't want to answer the simple questions. If you
they don't think there's any legitimate questions to answer about their involvement.
Well,
They don't think there are any, and I agree with them. There are no legitimate questions to answer about their involvement.
Thanks, AB. Go ahead, Dr. Strange.
Hi, Diligent. I know you're trying to close down, so I'll make this brief. I'll tell you a funny little story that kind of encapsulates what we're talking about. A group of kids, fifth graders, let's just say, friends, always went and played. Would go in the park and ride their bikes. One of these kids, their bike was stolen by this other kid, and the next day, the friends were talking to each other, and the kid who had stolen it saw them from a distance, and he started walking towards them, and had no clue what they were talking about. And as he approached, he reached out to them, and he said, "What bike?" He hadn't even heard what they were talking about. He just said, "What bike?" The kid had a guilty conscience. He knew that he was the one who stole it, so he thought he heard that they were talking about a bike. The reason why I bring this up is that the behavior of TPUSA, not all, some of them, comes across as having this guilty conscience. They're super defensive when they shouldn't be. If I was a friend of Charlie and I was with TPUSA, I wouldn't want to leave any stone unturned. I wouldn't rely on the official narrative. I would be actually in these spaces with you trying to look into this deeper and deeper without having to be on this defensive approach of just relying on whatever the narrative is, especially when the narrative has so many holes. So, I mean, that's really the crux of what we're saying. This behavior is not normal. This is not how you treat a friend, somebody who was assassinated in cold blood. If he was my friend, I would go to the ends of the earth to make sure that we get justice for him, and not necessarily just rely on whatever the official narrative is. That's it. It's just as simple as that. I'll end with that. Thanks.
Thank you, AB. And let me just say this. I had a.
Did you just call me AB?
Oh, I did. I'm sorry.
Aren't we all, AB? Come on, aren't we all, AB?
I was waiting for him to reply to you, and he didn't. So I fucked up.
Dr. Strange, you're a little bit.
So thank you for not talking over, or thank you for staying quiet, I guess. My bad, Dr. Strange. I'm getting tired if you can't tell. I just want to say this. I had a back and forth with a journalist on this platform, another citizen journalist, and I called him out. He made a post something like, Tyler Robinson is smiling because he knows that if you exonerate him in your head, he'll walk free, which is a very manipulative kind of just statement to make, I think, for a journalist. It's assuming that he's guilty, and then it's also making you, it's like emotionally extorting you to where if you believe that he might be innocent, you are somehow guilty of allowing him to walk free if he is guilty, like some kind of accomplice. And so I called him out. You know what I mean? I was like, is this objective journalism? And he responded, and he's like, yada yada. I'm a journalist. I've been on the ground. I've been in your spaces, and I was like, yeah, you have. But I am open to the idea that Tyler Robinson is guilty of this crime. Now, I don't know if my other speakers are, but I 100% am, right? I am 100% open to the idea that Tyler Robinson is guilty of killing Charlie Kirk. But I am also open to the idea that someone else killed Charlie Kirk. The fact of the matter is that we don't know who killed Charlie Kirk, and people who are out here pretending like they do are lying, and they need to be called out for it, right? And that is our job. That is our job. It is not to be the arbiters of facts, okay? It is to be the facilitators of truth. And that is what we do here. That's what we're going to continue to do here. I'm going to have Gronk do a recap and then take us out. Start over, Gronk. I had you
The
muted.
defenses. Anyway, wrapping the recap, we hit the Egyptian jet parked in Orem 2 days prior. John Cullen vanishing after posting ADSB data. The trans Discord threads celebrating before the shots even stopped echoing. Tyler's mom barred from court. The defense asking for closed sessions while the state leaks selective evidence. Erica doing the full media circuit while claiming full faith in the feds. And the biggest red flag. Nobody from TPUSA, not one friend, not one coworker, has shown up in any of these rooms asking a single hard question. Bottom line, we still don't know who pulled the trigger, and anyone saying they do is lying. Our job stays the same. Keep pulling primaries, keep asking the questions they won't, and never let the narrative outrun the evidence. That's the space. Thanks for riding with us. All roads lead to X. Have a blessed night. See you in the next one.
Thank you all for coming. Love ya.
They come here with some money and they think that they're going to take that money and do it backwards. And that money is going to be the cash flow that pays the bills.
One of the biggest production disasters in film history, Cleopatra. It started with a $2 million budget, but by the time it was finished, the cost had skyrocketed to $44 million. That's around $400 million today. Cleopatra was so expensive, it nearly bankrupted 20th Century Fox. The studio had to sell off assets just to stay afloat. And the film? It wasn't shot once, it was shot twice. Production began in England, but poor conditions forced them to scrap everything and move to Italy. Lead actress Elizabeth Taylor earned $1 million, the highest salary ever paid to an actor at that time. She wore 65 different costumes in the film. The film won 4 Oscars, but couldn't earn back what it spent. Still, Cleopatra remains one of the most extravagant and chaotic productions in cinema history. One of the biggest production disasters in film history. One of the biggest.
I just saw that Candace Owens said that Erica Kirk, now on her thumbnail, on her new podcast from today, she says that Barry Weiss called Candace a liar and Erica did not rebut. And this is clearly, she's trying to use this as a pretext to fully attack Erica Kirk because that's what she wanted all along. And the fact that anybody is still falling for this evil monster is just it's awful, and something has to be done. I believe that Turning Point USA definitely has receipts to show that Charlie had been staying away from her in recent years. And on December 15th, I believe it's Monday, when they do the live stream, they must bring those receipts forward because everybody knows that what Candace Owens is doing is just pure and utter evil, and she hates Erica Kirk. She hated what Charlie Cook stood for, and his organization. She's trying to get people to stop voting, which was Charlie's entire, life's work. And she's trying to destroy Turning Point USA, and it's all because of her hatred for the Jews and her resentment for being sidelined. So I just saw that about, Candace talking about how Erica Kirk didn't rebut the fact that she was called a liar. And, we all see what's coming.
That's not Erica Kirk's responsibility.
Exactly. Erica, and she is a liar. She says that now, Candace Owens originally said the only person that can make her stop is Erica. Now Erica says stop, and Candace says, well, I'm not lying, so I don't have to stop until you tell me what I'm lying about. And she wants to drag Erica Kirk into this whole thing. And she's trying to, goad her. She's trying to get her to respond. And I hope it doesn't happen, because it'll just evolve into just a cat fight. I just think that this has reached a boiling point. Anybody that still believes this, should be taken seriously as a person. She was an utter stupidity, just so idiotic. And this is where we are. I believe she said rabbit hole.
I mean, Monday is the day that TPUSA is going to do their kind of rebuttal, but she herself is not going to get to the mud with Candace, which is the thing to do, because Candace is doing a double bind. Kafka trap. Either way, no matter what Erica does, Candace will say that. So you got to see where it sticks.
USAA safe.
Turley was interviewed on Fox about an hour ago. It's an overwhelming level of evidence.
Well, I think right now what we're seeing is there's a push and pull between what is going to be weighed in court. There's transparency of the public and media and everyone knowing what's going on there, going to outweigh what potentially may be a risk to Mr. Robinson's particular trial. I think that in our world today, and I've said this often, the court system and our laws don't really keep up with technology and the other things that we have to affect, and it's really difficult to be able to weigh those things out and determine whether or not Mr. Robinson will be able to get a fair trial if certain pieces of information are revealed for the public, as we're now seeing in Mangione as well, that those are issues that are being brought to the court's attention. So I think the court's job is to make sure that they allow for as much transparency as possible and give Mr. Robinson the ability for his due process and to have a fair trial and to be able to find a jury pool that will be able to be fair based on what they hear prior to this case coming forward. Now, anything that they're going to bring out at these hearings most likely is going to be evidence in a trial that a jury would hear. Of course, if there's motions to suppress that evidence, that may raise this issue again before the court. But I do think that the court is going to take it seriously, and I do think he will err on being more transparent than not.
I thought it was interesting that Judge Graff ruled that members of Tyler Robinson's family would not be allowed to stay in the courtroom during this hearing into what will be released. Brent Tolman, who's with us, and we'll see him in just a little while, said, well, that could be potentially because some of the family members may be called as witnesses. And Josh, if they were privy to everything that was aired in those hearings, what could the potential effect of that be?
Yeah, that's always a concern. You want to make sure that whoever's present in the courtroom is potentially going to be a witness later on, and it might cloud their testimony. But the other thing I think we're learning about this judge is it's remarkable to me, every time we've seen him in court, how conscientious he is, how deliberate he is. He always seems to have his remarks prepared. And I think that we see the same thing today, the way they introduced what they're going to talk about today, and how it's this first hearing. I think the concern is primarily about courtroom security. That's why it was put under seal originally, and why the transcripts and the recordings have not been released, because it has to do with courtroom security. I could see him keeping that under seal because of that reason, because it doesn't really have to do with facts and circumstances of the case. But I agree with Donna that I'm hoping today, and I think it might be an indication by the judge allowing for him to dress down in civilian clothing and not have cameras picture him shackled, that is an indication that he will lean towards allowing cameras in courtroom, because I think the transparency of this case is so important. We saw in the lead up to this hearing, Erica Kirk talking about conspiracy theories and misinformation that is out there. And the best way to fight that is allow cameras in the courtroom so people can see exactly how justice is being served.
Jonathan, your thoughts on what has transpired so far?
Well, I think that Judge Graff is handling this exactly as he had to. Many of us have been advocates for greater television coverage within these courtrooms.